For that, I request Hiral Sharma, Principal Systems Engineer, Public Sector, Fortinet, to come on stage. The presentation topic is Secured Energy Innovation and Digital Transformation. A huge round of applause for her, please.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's absolutely an honor and privilege to be present amongst all of you today. And what a time to come on stage where we have seen cyber hacks in real life. We've seen some interesting demo and some threatening and some, offensive stuff which has been demonstrated live by my industry colleague, which beautifully showcases as to what can happen in a cyber threat life, right? The time is perfect because here I am to give you the 3 strategies to deal with this cyber attack, specifically in our environment, which are related to IT and OT. So without delaying it further, I will quickly get into the details of what we're looking at. It's been an interesting journey since morning till now. We've heard a lot of innovations specifically around power, right? It's great to see how our country is leading in terms of solar innovations, cutting down emissions, looking at smart metering, smart grid, and ecosystems like that. But what imposes is a cyber risk and cyber threat. I think all of us agree to it. I don't have to dwell into it and specifically explain why is cyber so important today, because we've all heard and seen the demonstration earlier on a consumer life basis, right? When on a consumer level, it can impact us so much. Imagine at an industry level, at an organizational level, what could be the impact? Now, going further to it today, when we specifically talk about industrial innovation, we talk about Web 3.0, Viksit Bharat as an aim, as a mission. We talk about smart metering. Now, there is a term that has been coined specifically for our industry that's called cyber physical systems. Right? After the innovation of connected world, after the innovation of digital world, there's one term which talks about cyber physical system. Now, what is cyber physical system? We will be understanding in coming slides as we move on. But predominantly, what does it bring as a challenge to all of us present here is the cyber colossus. Now, colossus, as we understand, is predominantly around the volumes to tackle. Something which is beyond our imagination, something which is beyond our experience altogether. The data that we talk about, it's inspiring and it's definitely motivational in terms of the growth that we're looking at from an energy delivery transmission perspective. But would we be able to handle such kind of data volumes when it comes to secure our infrastructures? And all of you are the prime owners of providing the cyber secured nation, while this innovation and transformation has to go on. Right? So now, when we talk about dealing with that, I want to play this particular interesting video, though my colleague has already done this. I hope everybody has seen this video of Mr. Tharoor. Sound, please.
I wonder, were you surprised when you first learned that an artificial intelligence model like myself could engage in conversations and even emulate the nuances of human discourse? Yeah, sure, I was surprised. I mean, there's no question that, when one reads about these things in science fiction, nobody expect to actually not only encounter it in real life, but be a participant, even worse, see yourself being replicated in this manner. So it's somewhat, it's interesting, definitely, but it's also slightly problematic.
Yeah. So before this, we actually saw the impersonation or getting into the level of your devices, your signals, your world of IT. Who could ever imagined impersonating Mr. Tharoor himself? And better than him. If looking at from an, a layman's eye perspective, it's very, very difficult to understand what's the differentiation. Which one is an AI avatar and which one is a real human out there. Which is a threat to identity itself. And which also brings to our key concern, human beings the weak link. And people will always matter. So can we get away from the fact of managing our identity and identity of your employees who are actually taking care of these innovations, who are responsible for having the privileged accesses to the critical system that they're operating in, and so on and so forth. And bringing that, now let's look at specifically the related attacks in our OT environment across the globe, right? Now, if you look at till last 2023, these are the global attacks. Started with Stuxnet, which created a huge era of how OT systems were getting impacted. Now, this is something that is, available on public information also, but let's look at India. We heard about Ladakh. We also saw, reference coming in as to how we were not able to, how hackers were not able to actually get in, and, how we were able to secure our systems. The two leading tabloids of India, our country have reported, and our statements as a government entity as to what has been our security measures are also highlighted. And that's available. I'm sure everybody knows about it. But what basically this brings is the complexity. Today, the technology which is supposed to help us in terms of creating an ecosystem which is easy to use, easy to refer, it's playing against us. They are not on defending community, but they are on offensive side. Right? So how do we make sure the complex environment like that we're still able to manage? And last challenge, I wouldn't say challenge, it's for our benefit, but from an organizational perspective that you refer, how many of you have actually adopted CA guidelines? How are you complying to the CA guidelines? Now, with the power cert coming into the place, you will have many advisories coming your way. How do we make sure that at a national level, whatever decisions are being taken care of, whatever intelligence are being shared, proactively is adapted to our ecosystem? Which is the third part of a challenge, which is compliance. So net, before moving into the final summary of our, challenges, I also wanted to highlight around cyber physical system. Now, what is cyber physical system? Gartner has coined this term from a research perspective. So the previous examples are the examples which we've experienced. This is something that our researchers are highlighting, that this is the future that holds for us. By 2027, not only power, but anything which has industrial control systems and are connected to any kind of internal or external networks will be termed as cyber physical systems. And there's supposed to be a dedicated strategy around how do we secure our cyber physical system. So to summarize, the top 3 C challenges of cyber today are around the colossus, which is the volume, the complexity, and last but not the least, are compliances. Right? Now, here I am to give you these strategies to handle these challenges effectively. Now, let's talk about the very first being, what should be your approach when you handle cyber? Now, the very first has to be, one of our industry leaders and very dear colleague from a cybersecurity world has stated a very beautiful statement around cyber. Cybersecurity is not about tools, not about technical certification, not about compliance. It has to be a risk-driven approach, which has to be a power of your muscle memory. When we talk about risk augmentation, risk, as we understand, are 2 types that an organization needs to look at. One is tactical, another has to be the strategic one. Tactical, as we all know, today I don't know of any organization which does not have basic or hygiene preventive tools. Everybody has antivirus, everybody has firewalls, everybody has basic network or level protections around email, around web. That needs to go on. How do you develop a strategy around building your prevention mechanism on a day-to-day basis, and how do you elevate from wherever you are? It's very critical. On top of it, you build your ecosystem from a response perspective. Now that response, again, as I said, does not limit only to tools. You need to have an ecosystem. If there is a situation, how to respond to that incident? How do you respond to a criticality? But most importantly, there has to be a dedicated, alignment towards strategy. And what I liked about the CA guidelines and the amendments that came in was around having a dedicated security organization and emphasize on having a dedicated strategic CISO offering, wherein you look at the organizational risk and relate to it from a strategy perspective and build something called proactive detection. Right? Now, how do we do that? Which is also aligned to a directive which is by NIS. This is a global compliance that we're talking about. And NIS was one of the legal compliances that did not talk about typical R solutions around strategy of, how do you have tools, how do you have compliances, but it spoke about risk. How do you align your organizational risk with the strategies that you build in from a cyber perspective? Now, as we go on, if you look at it from an attacker's perspective, right? My colleague has already spoken about it in a previous session. My industry colleague, Nikhil, has elaborated this in detail. I'll not go into the details of what this, attackers are. But predominantly, if you look at the common attack vectors around the OT are around the typical PLC systems, the remote systems, right? Where the availability is so important, which goes beyond the normal cybersecurity requirement. If you were to choose as a decision maker, as a management leader, you would always choose to have a system available because that's what business demands. And that's what is easy exploitable target for attackers to come in. What we saw previously as a mobile hacking example, right? That was a lure that was created. The team was actually trying to lure you with an easy given Wi-Fi, right? Now, if the techies like us can get influenced, imagine the normal employees who are sitting at a remote factory where the network itself is struggle, and somebody comes in with the power of saying that you have an easy Wi-Fi access, please log in and you get your network connectivity. It's a lure. And people will definitely be coming in for it. Now, what do? We have to align our strategy, as I said, not only around technological controls, but also around the entire aspect which is recommended by NIST as a framework around people, process, and technology. Now, what do? We build an ecosystem which basically aligns with our organizational cybersecurity around your built-in security, around your communication channels, around your integrity, and most importantly, your micro-segmentation. If your smart meters, if your safety systems, if your networks are segregated and there's a proper segmentation which has been done, if you have controls on network that any ROG device, which is what the device my colleague was showcasing earlier, would not have access until that passes through the certain checks, and you have privilege identity control in place, nobody would be able to come in so easily, which was been showcased earlier. Right? So if you have controls in place, right controls, right processes in place, you will still be able to protect your ecosystem. I belong to an organization, as we know, Fortinet. We are the leaders in cybersecurity globally. Our entire ecosystem around that supports the entire multi-variant protection. And our entire team is available here. We will get into the details as and when you have discussions around it. Would be more than happy to get into the discussions. But today I am not here to talk around the products. Let's talk strategy, as we said. The very first being convergence. So what we're talking is your risk, your strategies has to get converged into the kind of solutions that you're looking forward. The kind of risk association or risk decrease that you want to do. How do you effectively utilize your resources, which are existing protection, as well as how you build on top of it? How do you make sure that any networking equipment which are, let's say you're looking forward to thermal plants or power plants are ruggedized and still secured? How do we take care of critical requirements but provide security as an inherent nature to it? Whether it is network, whether it is Wi-Fi, whether it is connectivity, the security has to be based there. And that's what we talk about convergence when we talk about security. So every strategic initiative around IT or digital or smart, as you say, when you take, it has to lead by security. Security should be an inherent nature to it. Second, very important part, I think my previous colleagues from industry have been watching this session since morning, and I was very happy to see when Schneider talk about platform. I think today we realize the importance of not having siloed approach, right? Not having multiple tools available for endpoint protection, for email, for web, and so on and so forth. Of course, we need protection. But ultimately, everything has to get converted into a platform like you and I today belong to, wherein multiple industry speakers are coming, sharing their experiences. We learn from each other. That's what platform benefits. We create a platform wherein the detection technologies, we provide early detection. We use AI and ML to work with us, for us, not against us. And very importantly, we create a centralized ecosystem so that in case of a crisis, the investigation and remediation becomes centralized and which is controlled by you, but not the third party. Which is basically the consolidation. When you consolidate multiple single siloed point products into an integrated platform. Right? So today, if you look at any attacker, like previously he showed one attack, he also showed the steps of what were involved in the Mumbai attack. But if you look at from a technological alignment perspective, we call it cyber kill chain. Any typical cyber attack would have different stages of an attack. These are the different stages. I'm not getting into the details of technicalities here. But if you look at typical prevention mechanism, always starts here at a mid layer. by the time it's very late. Somebody has already planned something against you. They've already strategized as to how they need to come inside, whether to use spear phishing, that means email as a media, your network, that means your Wi-Fi or Bluetooth as a media, or your endpoint, which is a weakling using humans as a media. Once they apply already at the exploitation level, which is a mid-layer of a cyber kill chain, that's where your prevention mechanism, which are existing tools, will start taking actions. What we want a shift left approach in life. We need to start where they are strategizing. And that's where your early detection is so critical and so important. So always try to look at or have a solution which is a third party view apart from what you see, which is an external view. Now, apart from what we saw today, are you aware there's something called Shodan? Yeah? So if people who are not aware, just go and search Shodan. Shodan is an open community search. And if you just go and search electricity, you will see minimum 82 to 85 open available devices, IPs, everything available on internet. What somebody needs is to wait to know what exploit needs to be used. And they'll try and exploit the critical systems. If something on the internet or the darknet is so easily available, we need to be prepared to deal with this in advance. Right? Organization like South India, when they share the intelligence, they get the intelligence from reputed organizations at the back end, which is called external attack surface monitoring, complete digital risk prevention, wherein you get involved at a layer where the attackers are planting something against you. For more to know on this, please visit our booth and we'll tell you more around it. But what we are saying is start an early protection. Second, how do we use AI and ML as a technology to work for us? When we are talking about an integrated platform and building a platform to lead our investigation centrally. Let's say there's an alert which has come, which basically talks about a policy violation on external file sharing, which is nothing but a data exfiltration alert. As a layman, would you be able to tell me what needs to be done next? Or let's say L1, L2 engineer, the security engineer, there are too many tools. It's not their fault to not know everything. What if technology helps you and you go ahead and you get the tool itself tells you that how can I help you? It's as you as using a ChatGPT or Bard or Gemini. Just go and say, suggest me some incident remediation mechanism against this incident that I've got. You get multiple suggestions. On top of it, you can go ahead and say, create a response mechanism, which in cyber world is known as playbook creation. When you click on create a playbook, the entire automated response mechanism is created just with a normal type English chat. It's that easy for an executive, for a L2, L3 engineer, your starting engineers to standardize your security operations. And all of that happens when the technology works with you and not against you. Last, the compliance part. You need to have technological controls which definitely complements your compliances. Whether it is CEA compliance, Cert India compliance, Power Cert compliances, or global standard compliances like NIST, IEC, and so on and so forth. Which basically starts with your asset management. Look for tools which can provide you not only IT visibility, but also get into the detail of OT visibility. That gets into the access control and network access control mechanism. What my colleague tried earlier with the mobile hack and everything, he tried something called RAT as a tool, remote access Trojan. Now, how do you control remote access? When you have a proper controls on network access and privilege access is very important. As I said, identity cannot be taken away. And then so on and so forth around SOC and risk management. I think there's a dedicated initiative around how do we establish our centralized security operations center. We have a complete offering around it. Please visit our booth to know more. So net, what we are trying to say, we heard about the 3 critical challenges of cyber, which was around colossus, around complexity, and last but not least, meeting the regular compliances. Here are the 3 C strategies for you to deal with it. Start with converged approach, where security becomes a second nature to you. Anything around IT and OT that you look forward as an initiative, please look forward for cybersecurity as an inherent approach. Consolidate your entire ecosystem into a platform where the intelligence can be exchanged, which can be acted upon, which is known as actionable intelligence. Last but not the least, how do the entire ecosystem help you to comply to your critical requirements. Now let's look at one of the key example as a demonstration. All of you get the CERT advisory. Do we get the CERT advisory on the latest vulnerabilities and ecosystem around it? What do we do in a typical environment when the CERT releases a vulnerability advisory? Okay. We typically receive that advisory in a form of IOC. That's called indicator of compromise. Now, IOC, as we know, are different types. There are 21 different types of IOC. You have IP information, you have domain, you have MD5 hash, you have SHA-1 hash, and so on and so forth. If somebody is giving you an intelligence, let's say CERT does a lot of investigation, forensics, and they get to know that these are the vulnerabilities which are available, these are the IP which are harmful. Usually in an organization which is all cyber ready and has a great platform, they would follow below stages. They'll extract the IOC, validate whether it is applicable to us or not. Then they will have change request and they'll try and put into their existing protection mechanism. Okay, that's a typical process. Now let's look at with the technological innovation and the integration and platform that we're trying to build, how do we optimize? Okay, so we can create an ecosystem wherein the CERT can provide the mail going to the platform that we're trying to create. The moment the platform it goes, 90% of the organization today does not do the validation of whatever advisory we receive. Typically, we get the list of IPs, we just put it on the blocklist mode of firewall. Aren't we doing that? Which impacts your performances big time. This is the platform that will actually get into the details of every IOC and validate on your behalf automatically. Using the community feeds, using the threat intel feeds, using the open source feed, which is not only dependent on one particular provider. Going forward, this is what the dashboard that your SOC analyst or L1, L2 engineers will see. There's an alert from CERT, I need to act upon it. What's the time that we see in the window? Just 38 seconds. The moment it is executed, you get to know out of the IOC list that has been shared by CERT as an advisory, how many of them are malicious and what is not malicious. So I only need to act upon what is malicious for us. Go ahead and automatically, this is a firewall dashboard. Without any human intervention, that gets applied and put into the quarantine or a blacklist as we understand. Automatically, right? And you get that acted upon from a inbox to a processed email that has come in. So what we're trying to say, a typical organization wherein the entire ecosystem is built, best practices are being utilized, takes almost half a day's time to act upon something, which we can automate within a minute's time. Using the power of platform and the strategies which I discussed earlier. With that, we improve on our efficiency, we improve on our mean time to respond, and it's a proactive security model, but not the reactive one. Fortinet has multiple solutions available as we discussed, and we are available out here to have conversations with you. Our motto is to provide cybersecurity everywhere you need it, whether it is device, cloud, network, critical infrastructures, or day-to-day human lives. Please feel free to visit us. And with that, I want to thank you for giving us an opportunity to share our strategies and our experiences, which you can apply. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Hiral Sharma from Fortinet for again sharing an insightful presentation. When Nikhilji gave his presentation, we all are scared. But your presentation has again proved that there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. There are solutions which can be leveraged by the government entities which can actually counter the challenges of cybersecurity. That's quite heartening. I request MAKP Singh sir to come on stage and kindly hand over a small token appreciation to Hiral Sharma from Fortinet. After this, we have the first discussion of the day, making our utilities efficient and resilient.